right, welcome West Coast Whiskey Club. Thanks for joining us tonight. And if you're going to follow later on YouTube, but we are here with our Lux Row tasting, and we have National Brand Ambassador Ian with us. Thanks for joining us, Ian.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So real quick, I'm gonna just mute everybody on here. We have Tyler going to be running the chat, and if you have questions, we have Scott taking over the. I mean, okay, thanks, Scott. So, so yeah, we're gonna mute everybody and Scott take away his keyboard. Um, Tyler's running our chat. If you have any questions, please put the questions up there. We'll move those forward, and we'll get started. So, Ian, please tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm one of the national brand ambassadors for Lux Co. MGP. So I work a lot with the Lux Row brands and Rebel particularly. And my background is different than I think a lot of people who come into the spirits industry. I was an enthusiast, so I was someone that was collecting and part of groups in Los Angeles when I lived down there for single malt Scotch and bourbon and spirits of all types, and it was sort of my passion. But I was working in the entertainment industry, and I did that for about 20 years as a television producer and film producer. Ran my own company. And then around the pandemic, a little after that, me and my family moved up north. I was kind of floating around in careers. Had a friend who worked in the spirits industry who was connected to MGP and asked me to come on as a 1099 for mainly for Penelope, which is one of our other big brands. And I worked for Penelope as a 1099 for about a year, and I've been a national brand ambassador here for about 2 years. So my career started in a completely different industry, but as a passionate person like yourselves, a tater who is going around chasing dusties and telling people why their favorite whiskey wasn't any good, all that type of stuff. That's how I came to the industry. But I just love all things aged in a barrel, mainly whiskeys. So that's kind of my general background.
And you have a pretty wealth of knowledge when it comes to whiskey. Every time we sit down, you're talking about a different one. So I appreciate that. And so Luxco, tell us more about Luxco and what's all wrapped into that.
Yeah, cool. So Luxco is kind of an interesting, um, you know, uh, a very interesting company for where we're at today in the whiskey industry because Luxco was originally part of something called the David Sherman Company, which was known as a quote unquote bottler, but really what they were was a non-distilling producer.
Hmm.
So they were acquiring and creating brands and then sourcing the juice for those brands to then sell into the marketplace, usually at a lower rate than their competitors. And so Luxco was not a distiller, or the David Sherman Company was a bottler and purveyor of spirits, but not a actual producer of spirits. But back then they called them rectifiers, they called them bottlers, but the non-distilling producer and moniker um, was not kind of known. So they were one of the originals that were doing that. So when everyone talks about how this NDP thing is a phenomenon, it really isn't, and the Lux family and the David Sherman Company were some of the first people to do that, and they did it very, very well, and they grew a huge portfolio of brands. Mainly during the late 50s into the 60s and up to the 2000s when it became Luxco. It was the David Sherman Company, and then they bought out the David Sherman Company, and then it became Luxco, and it's been Luxco since I want to say the late 80s into the 90s around then.
All right. So right now, what brands are you representing?
Yeah, so Luxco has a host of brands of stuff that you guys drank in college that we don't need to talk about necessarily, but I can mention some of them. Your Lord Calverts, your Everclears, your Wolf Schmidts, your Dark Eyes, your some of your all the Arrow spirits, so any kind of mixers or cordials. We make a ton of that stuff. Lady Bly rum. I mean, all this kind of volume product we call it. Juarez, excuse me, Sauza, I think is the one we have. So some of the volume brand stuff, but then we have what we call our focus brands or our sort of higher end brands, and that's where Rebel, Ezra Brooks, which are from the Lux Row Distillery. We have Penelope, we have Remus, Yellowstone, El Mayor Tequila. Those are some of our bigger brands, and those are what I focus on. Occasionally, I'll add some of those brands will float up. Like if we're doing El Mayor tequila, sometimes we'll do Exotico, which is just a step down from El Mayor, but still very good tequila.
Hmm.
But our focus brands are sort of our big kind of flagship brands that are pretty well known in the whiskey community.
Okay, so today we're going to be doing a mix of Rebel and Blood Oath,
Yes,
and
exactly.
no Ezra today, even though we did a
Got
Ezra
it.
pick, which is going to be coming soon. Um,
Yeah.
but we're going to start off with our Rebel, which is traditionally a wheated bourbon.
Yes. Yeah. So I can give you a little bit of color, Jay, on the history of Rebel too, which is a little bit unique and interesting, and then we can get into the first pour if that makes sense for you.
Hmm.
That sound good?
Yeah.
I'm going by the run of show here, man. You did a
Hey,
great job.
I,
It's
I
awesome.
appreciate you reading the notes, unlike Todd.
You sent him. I was like, this is good. This is really well done. Good job. And it gives me, it gives me a path, a treasure map. So I appreciate it. As I was describing the David Sherman Company, Rebel is actually an original brand that was created um, by the Stitzler Weller Distillery. So we say this brand goes back to 1849 and the Weller Distillery. However, Rebel didn't really start popping up. It was popping up as this
Hmm.
Rebel Yell, and it was known as Rebel Yell, and it was meant to be a regional brand, and it was created in, they say around the 30s is when they think it kind of first was created as a regional brand. And one of the representatives of the Weller Distillery wanted to create a wheated bourbon, right? So wheated bourbons are going to be much different profile than a rye bourbon. Wheated bourbons um, are a little bit mellower to some people. They kind of develop, they're less top notey and they kind of develop on the mid palate and into the finish and gives you kind of a nice, long, kind of flavorful finish. And the wheat has a much different characteristic than the rye. So you guys are going to taste a rye in a minute and you'll notice that you'll understand what I'm saying. Whereas rye is very top note. It hits your tongue and it kind of explodes in your mouth. There's potpourri. There's kind of white pepper. There's a fruitiness to it. There's like a bouquet. Whereas wheat is a little bit mellower and it has a little bit more of what I call like grain spice. So it has like
Hmm.
kind of a deeper spice to it, whereas rye to me is very kind of explosive and top notey. But he wanted to create a regional brand called Rebel Yell, and that came out through the Weller Distillery, and that was made regionally in the Southeast, pretty much all through into like the 80s. And then it was acquired, and it had many iterations, right? It was the Stitzer Weller distillery sort of dissolved in around that time, and
Hmm.
then in I believe it was the late 80s, early 90s, the David Sherman Company acquired it, which then became part of Luxco, and then Luxco really built it out as a volume brand. So I remember, 20 years ago when I was in LA, I'd walk in and there'd be case stacks of Rebel 100 for like $13 a bottle, and I'd buy it because I'm like, this is a great deal. It's a weeded bourbon from Kentucky. Are you kidding me? So that's was my introduction to it because on the East Coast, I didn't really see it very much growing up. So that's kind of the history of it. And so when Rebel was part of the Luxco portfolio, it was with brands like Ezra Brooks and David Nicholson, that those sorts of brands. And then throughout the 90s and into the 2000s, Rebel continued to be a successful regional brand mostly, although it had national distribution, but it was really popular in the South. And then around 2020, the Lux family decided to drop the Yell and just call it Rebel for a lot of different reasons. We don't have to get into that, but they just felt as, their family, their background, probably not the best to be pushing a bourbon that kind of is promoting something that wasn't politically correct, and so they
Hmm.
dropped the Rebel and they dropped the Yell and it became Rebel. And then in 2021, Luxco was acquired by MGP, and so then Luxco became the branded spirits division of MGP, Midwest Grain Products. And so during that acquisition, um, MGP was now going to rely upon Luxco to the Lux and the Luxco family to be their branded spirits division. Now, in 2018, the Lux family started a distillery because they wanted to get into the game as distillers and not rectifiers or non-distilling producers. And so at the Lux Row distillery, they started making wheated bourbon and rye bourbon. The wheated bourbon they made there was Rebel. with the same mash bill that it had before, that 20% rye mash bill. Now that 20% rye mash bill, Weller doesn't disclose a lot of their mash bills, but pretty sure it's the same mash bill, right? So, because it came
Hmm.
from the same distillery as Weller, right? Now, I'm not saying it tastes the same as Weller, but from the same roots, that mash bill, that history and lineage. And they made Ezra Brooks Rye, which is our 12% rye mash bill. We don't have to talk about Ezra now, but that's what they were making in 2018 there, and they've been continuously making those products up until today. And although we have shut down production due to the contraction in the industry, but we have, 100,000 barrels sitting in Kentucky right now, ready to be, poured into bottles. So we have a lot of inventory there. We've been distilling for a long time. The other part of it too is that prior to us starting that distillery in 2018, we were sourcing mainly most of our juice from Heaven Hill. So a lot of the older stuff, like the Rebel 10 that you'll have tonight, is going to be a Heaven Hill product because that's where they were getting all their old juice from or aged into that age from before. So a lot of the older stock that we had up until about this year has been Heaven Hill products that have been aging on site since 2018 or stuff that we've bought during that process. But part of the reason why they wanted also to start their own distillery was because during the whiskey boom, it was getting harder and harder to source that whiskey from Heaven Hill because they had so many products that they were releasing. They were having great success. So those two families still have a wonderful relationship. They're still close. But the Luxes wanted to get into the game as distillers to kind of preserve their ability to have their own stock, so they weren't relying upon sourcing. Um, and so the Rebel traditionally did not make rye, right? So
Mm.
one of the great parts about being acquired in 2020, 2021 by MGP was that the Lux family had all of this great access to awesome rye because now MGP is their parent company. So they went in and said, "Hey, well now we can make some rye products because we got, an hour and a half up the road. We got all the rye in the world and some of the best in the world." So the first expression you're going to try is going to be a Rebel rye. So that's going to be a 4-year-old rye. It's going to be at 100 proof, similar to our standard Rebel 100 bourbon. And this one's going to be from Indiana. We're sourcing it from Indiana. We're actually not set up to make a rye at Lux Row. Like we don't make a pure rye at Lux Row. I don't believe we ever have. So we source that, and that's going to be a 51% rye. So it's 51.45.4. So even though it's a lower percentage rye, its
Hmm.
youth is going to really pop on the palate. So this is one that I actually do enjoy drinking neat because it really wakes your palate up. It's big, it's spicy, it's perfumey, it's sweet. It has a lot of character. It gives you a nice punch on the back end too, a nice Indiana rye hug. And I think it's just a delicious representation of younger, really well blended rye, right? Our master distiller, John Rempe, is making sure that these blends of rye are done just right. So he actually is
Yeah.
overseeing all of the products that are being made on the Rebel line, although he's not distilling the distillate up in Lawrenceburg. So the Lawrenceburg distillery also we also use that mash bill in the Ezra Brooks 7, but those are much older barrels and those are pulled from different stock, obviously, than the younger barrels that are used for these blends.
Hmm. Getting a real like crisp green apple on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah. When they're young like that, there's a lot of character to them.
Hmm.
And they're very bold and they're very big. And I think that they're excellent. You can drink it neat as you guys are, and it's nice. It has some good punch to it. If it's a bit much, if you're not as much of a rye drinker, Bob, put a couple drops of water in there, an ice cube, and kind of mellow it out. But these are great in a cocktail. Awesome in a rye cocktail. Anything. It's just because it carries through, and the youth of it is really nice in those cocktails if you really want to taste that rye.
I love putting 100 proof whiskey in my cocktails. They really stand up well and
Yeah,
a lot of flavor to them.
yeah. So
So
that's
Sweet.
a
Well,
Rebel 100
let's
rye.
let's take a sip, Ian.
Yeah, go for it. This is mine right here, my dinner.
yes. All right. So you said this is a 51% rye. So it barely meets
Yeah.
the
So that
standards of rye.
yeah, this is what I would call barely legal rye, right? So um, we have another really cool mash bill that comes out of the same distillery for a Remus brand called the Highest Rye, and the Highest Rye is actually a bourbon, but it's the highest amount of rye that you can put into a bourbon, and it's an excellent pour. If you guys can find that, get it. It's really, really good. Very ginger snappy, but that's 51% corn and the rest 49% rye. 10%
Hmm.
of that rye being a malted rye. So it's got a really
Oh,
nice kind of ginger snappy sweetness. Whereas this one's 51% rye, you're getting 45% corn and 4% malted barley. So the sweetness of the corn is there, but even that 51% rye, I always found the 51, some of the 51s to me have more, flavorful rye tones than even 95 fives I've had, which is interesting. It's just
yeah.
the way that they sing or the way that they age or the way that it's blended. So kind of
Is
interesting.
is there any story behind how they came up with this blend, this percentage? Because it's not a normal one, right?
No, I think my instinct would tell me that rye is, a tougher on the palate for people that are a little more less experienced in whiskey drinking. And so by putting it at a lower percentage of rye, perhaps their thinking is that's going to be less aggressive on the palate than if we were just going to be bottling our 95 fives. But I
Hmm.
also think that as they were blending it together or, coming up with these types of different mash bills and recipes, they realized that this is one that works really well. And is very interlaced and integrates really nicely. So, we use a bunch of different rye mash bills, but the 95.5 and this one are probably our most popular.
And Tyler, did you see where this is available and how much it's running?
Not yet, but we can keep moving. I can drop in the chat when I find that out.
Thanks. You had one job, buddy. Um,
He's doing good. Come on.
oh, this guy. So, awesome. Um, Anybody else tasting notes that you're picking up out there?
Do you guys taste the kind of grainy youth in there? It's youthful, but that's not always a bad thing in my mind. I think some people say youthful, but I tend to like some graininess in whiskey occasionally, and I think this has that rye grain, that rye spice, and it punches, at 100 proof. It's nice.
And 100 proof whiskey at $20. I mean,
Yeah.
this is that's pretty outstanding.
Yeah, we have we have the unique ability to give some pretty great pass some savings on to the customer with this brand, especially. I mean, Rebel 100 sits on the shelf at under $20. Our bourbon, the root beer you'll have later is 15, 16 bucks. The special reserve that the small batch reserve you guys will try next, that's a $28 bottle. So a lot of value in this brand.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
And
how it was built. So they're not abandoning that, although we do have some higher end stuff that you guys will taste as well that's, in the 50 to $100 range.
yeah, and at that price point, definitely you can put it in a cocktail and not feel too bad about it. So that's great.
Of course, yeah. It's a great daily drinker. A lot of the times when we go to events that are in the South, that's all they drink. It's like I buy cases of this and this is what I drink every day. And
Hmm.
on the weekends I'll pour my Blantons and I'll pour this or I'll pour that. But, you can't beat the deal.
Yeah. All right. So our second pour of the night is going to be our Rebel Small Batch Reserve 110 proof.
Here we go. So this is what it used to look like. So
Hmm.
that's an old Rebel Yell. It's sold on the back. It says distilled and aged by Rebel Yell Distillery, which was an offshoot of Stitzer Weller. So this is an old bottle. This is what it used to look like. So the Rebel Reserve was after Rebel had established itself as a pretty well-known brand. They decided that they wanted to make something that was, a little bit more bespoke, a little bit more special, a little higher proof than their 80 proof offering. And they created the small batch reserve. And so John wanted something. John Rempe, our master distiller, that kind of sat right above the 100 at a really good price point that was smaller batched at higher proof with older juice in it. And that's exactly what this product is. I think this product punches way above its weight. I think it's way more complex than most 5, 6-ish year old whiskeys in small batch. And at 110 proof, you're getting incredible value. So now we're switching over from that rye mash bill to the wheated mash bill. And the wheated mash bill is 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley. So, what does the wheat do? As I was mentioning, that wheated mash bill is going to be a much different experience on the nose. It's a much different experience on the front of your palate, into the mid, and into the back part of your palate, and the finish is much different. People think like, oh, we use the term defiantly smooth. That's what we use. I know smooth is kind of a dirty word in the whiskey
Hmm.
industry. I use it. I don't care. I don't care what people say. I'm a real, I'm a real trailblazer. But but it's very smooth, and that's kind of one of the things that we pride on is the weeded mash bill delivers a much more even profile than your rye bourbons, or your kind of heavier corn bourbons that are hyper sweet and big. This one is going to be, have it still gives you what a spice to it. It's different. It's a wheat spice, so it's different. It's a different flavor profile. I get a lot of milk chocolate from wheated bourbon. There's
Hmm.
some people though, the same people, some people have an aversion to rye. Some people have like an aversion to wheated whiskey as well. It does something on their palate that doesn't taste right. I've heard people talk about that with Maker's Mark sometimes. Like, as Maker's Mark is an amazing product and they do a hell of a job. But I've heard people say like, yeah, there's something about the younger versions of that when I taste it, it doesn't sit on my palate right. I haven't experienced that with our wheated products. So our wheated products are built in such a way for drinkability, and this one at 110 proof has a nice statement on the palate, but it's going to give you that kind of caramel, the rich kind of wheat spice on the back end, and it develops on the palate in a very kind of even way, and you get that nice long kind of soft spice finish. Whereas the rye is kind of big, explosive. This is a much more even experience, and that's how I always describe wheat versus rye. Although when you have like I don't know if many of you have had like 100% wheated whiskey. We had one out, or we had a 95.5 wheat whiskey from our founders year one with Penelope, and that's very spicy when it's
Mm.
full wheat or a wheat whiskey. I find those to be very spicy. I like them, but I almost find them to be, competing right with rye in the spice category. Whereas when you blend it with the malted barley and the corn, it kind of tamps down that wheat spice. You still have it there, but the kind of symphony of the grains makes it a much more, as I mentioned, even, well-rounded experience. But I think this product, that's one of my favorite products that Rebel makes is this product. And like I said, 28 bucks on the shelf for something that's in the 5 to 6 year range, much more smaller batch blend than our Rebel 100 rye or our standard Rebel 100. Um, it's a hell of a deal, and I think it has a really nice flavor profile for what it is.
And for the 110 proof, it doesn't really, there's no burn to it. It's really approachable. Um, so Scott is one of our guys that doesn't love the high proof stuff. So I'm wondering if he's feeling this one is comfortable for him or not. But
Yes, definitely quote unquote smooth. I would agree with that, and I would enjoy this. I
You
do.
thank
are
you, Karen.
you are enjoying it.
So 20% wheat, that's a high wheat mash bill, right?
Yeah, that's
Because
pretty.
like
That's a
the
pretty high wheat mash bill. I
yeah.
think I want to say I think Makers is around there or slightly higher. And then, yeah, right around there is now we do, there are people that claim to have wheated mash bills and they're lower. They're in like the 15 to
Hmm.
16 percentage, but that's still a decent enough percentage of wheat to give you a good amount of that wheat profile. Our Penelope wheated, for example, is around 16%, and we call it a wheated. Um, so it, like rye, as you ramp up that percentage, every 1% of wheat you put in it, it amplifies it more than that 1%, right? There's an exponential growth to how it impacts the flavor profile. So that 20% is sort of the base that we use and works very, very well for our product.
And how long have you been producing this version?
So this small batch reserve, I think, was released about 2 years ago. It was
Okay.
from the original that I showed you guys. It was kind of a
Hmm.
retread of a higher proof small batch product. And so I think it's been out for about a year and a half, 2 years, and it's not that many people know about it, but everyone that tastes it's like, wow, this is a great product for under 30 bucks. I
Yeah.
mean, talk about a daily drinker if you like weeders. I mean, it's as good as any weeder out there as far as I'm concerned in the price range.
All right. So here's a trivia question for everybody out there. And if you're right, you can pick any bottle off Todd's shelf right behind his back there. Um, who's the rock star that loved Rebel Yell?
Billy Idol.
Well, he wrote the song, but there was an
Oh, okay.
original one before that. But yeah, it was Keith Richards. He's the famous one that really loved Rebel Yell and put it out there a lot. He was a daily drinker of that one.
Man, I was hoping I got that right. I need one of those Penelope bottles from Todd.
Jay gets to pick one now.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's what happens when I do the research.
he'll
So
take the Millennium.
there we go. I can go over to his house and drink it for free, so that's all right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he loves that.
All right. So tasting notes, anybody on this one?
I got cinnamon, but that might just be me.
No, that's a great. That's common. The
I said
cinnamon,
milk
the
chocolate
baking
malt
spice.
balls in the chat there. I mean, I totally get it.
Yeah,
It's right.
I get a milk chocolate on a lot of our products, and we'll talk about the Rebel 10. I mean, that to me is just like a milk chocolate bomb, in my opinion.
Mm.
But yeah, that the milk chocolate's a note that I get. Not everyone who drinks Weeders, it hits in the same, but for me, it's milk chocolate. It's a creamier chocolate. It's not like the dark cocoa you get from, maybe a barrel strength Kentucky whiskey or something like that, where it's that like cocoa nib. This one to me is more of a milk chocolatey kind of profile, and that's the pronounced note that I get. Obviously, you're going to get the standard. It's caramelly. There's
Hmm.
some baking spice. There's a lot of vanilla in there because it's going to be aged 5 to 6 years in the hot rick houses in Bardstown. But that milk chocolate note is there for me.
And is this being produced at Lux Row or at MGP?
This is a Lux Row product.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
is full
It's
Kentucky
Kentucky
then.
bourbon. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. The only products that we produce for the Lux Row distillery that are MGP products are going to be our rye products.
So compared to the rye to this, I mean, it's vastly different.
Yeah, fucking fun.
But both very enjoyable. I do like for 28 bucks. I mean, that's pretty darn good for 110 proof, five
Yeah,
years.
I mean,
So
what you're getting there is great value.
Pod's having an earthquake in his house or something
Yeah.
there. All right. So our third pour of the night is going to be our Rebel Kentucky Straight Bourbon, 6 year, 100 proof. This guy right here.
Yeah, so this one is going to be the first product that we're trying tonight with an age statement. This product came out around the same time, I believe, as we reemerge with the small batch reserve that you guys just had. And so this this product is a minimum of 6 years old, and it's a much tighter batch even than the small batch reserve. And so this is Lux Row juice that we're sourcing, and John Rempe, our master distiller, is finding incredibly high quality barrels and then blending these together to create a 100 proof drinking experience. This is the shelf available version of what we offer at Lux Row Distillery for our barrel program currently for Rebel. So I'm
Mm.
sure some of you have seen the Rebels with the blue label on them with the six. That is our single barrel. So if you think of the quality of those barrels, and I think those barrels are really underrated. They're great value too, but they're just really nice drinking experience. This is going to be, you know, the quality of those barrels, but blended together. And so John's pulling out the stock for the single barrels that he thinks would be good for the single barrel program, but it's just the shelf available version of that as opposed to um, the as opposed to the single barrel. So when you get up to 6 years and you go to the 100 proof, I think you start to see, in my opinion, weeded bourbon starts to get really tasty and delicious at that 6 year mark up to around the 10 to 12 year mark. That's where I really enjoy weeded bourbon. And so it's starting to get the beginning of that even more refined smooth palate, right? The milk chocolate, the traditional bourbon profile, but with something a little different from that weeded mash bill. So, age statements I think are important. They're getting more important, especially in the current market. You want to have an age statement to provide that have that contract on the front of the bottle with your consumer.
Hmm.
But I also think that it kind of shows that we're coming of age with the brand as well. Most people don't associate that brand with an age statement. Probably we have the Rebel 10, but that's sort of a high end version that we don't release a lot of. But now we're starting to bring those age statements into common products, which I think is important for Rebel. People are looking for value, they're looking for good proof, and they're looking for age statements. So I think that those are the things that whiskey people love to see. And so we're looking to provide that here. So for me, I think that this one has a nice kind of refined approach to how they're going to put together a weeded bourbon at 100 proof. And I think it also, I think, settles into the competitive set of other products that are weeded in this price range too. Some of the nicer Maker's Marks and those that are in the kind of high 30s, $40 range, you're going to see this one set in there. And I think again, much like other Rebel products, it punches way above its weight. A lot of I just think it has just a lovely balanced nose. Super again, that super well integrated connected profile. Nothing seems off. It's kind of all kind of there, as opposed to the rye you guys had in the beginning, which is like explosion and kind of swallow it down and go, whoa, this one again. And as it gets older, it's just more and more of that complexity and depth with a refinement to it. And I think this is a great product. And I think our single barrels are awesome too. And those sit on the shelf at I believe around $49 for the single barrel, whereas this one's I think
Wow.
in the low 40s. So it's a really, really good deal for the Rebel single barrels at 100 proof.
Is this the same mash bill as the previous one?
Always going to be 20% for anything Rebel.
Okay.
Always going to be that 20% weeded. As far as entry proof, I think we put it in at around 124.9, like right at the limit. That's how John does Ezra and Rebel. I saw that question there. So 124.9 is our one. You can't put it in higher than 125, obviously. So he puts it right at the limit. Yeah, Brian says leather.
Brian,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I said, there's a richness, there's a depth and complexity. 6 years and a much smaller, tighter batch. You really taste the seasons in that barrel and in that blend, and it comes through. It's got a nice, rich character. If you hear a child screaming outside the door, it's my daughter telling my wife that she needs socks or something. Yeah, baking spice, definitely nice baking spice finish. Clove, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you guys know. You don't even need me here. You guys got it. Come on. All the good notes.
You're
Yeah,
just the
so
hired help, right?
yeah, exactly. I'm in my house too. Um, any questions, guys? Any comments on this one? You like this one? Love to hear your feedback. I know Jay doesn't like people talking during this, but only him. Runs a tight ship.
I even have to muse Todd once in a while, so.
Yeah, well, I understand that.
So
We're
going back
going
to the
to the
previous,
10
go ahead.
next, right? We're going to the
The
10
10,
next.
the 10 will
Yeah.
be next, but going
Yeah,
back
I
to
have a question, but
the previous one was a small batch, non-age stated, but this feels so much more mature than the other.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
I,
so
th
when
I
they
think
say 6 year, it's minimum 6 year. Is there,
minimum 6 year and smaller blends. So
okay.
I think that when he's batching this product, it's a much tighter than the small batch reserve, right? So you have the Rebel 100, which is your big batch. He's doing huge amounts of barrels, and that's a volume product, right? Then
Hmm.
you've got the small batch reserve, which is a larger is still a relatively large batch, but significantly smaller than the Rebel 100, obviously, because we don't move as much as that as our Rebel 100. And then you have the Rebel 6 year, which is even tighter and more focused and more looking for barrels that are minimum 6 years old. So my assumption is that it says six. That's the youngest. He's probably putting stuff in there that's upwards of the max that we have available to us at Lux Row. So 2018 up to last year, you're looking at 7, 8 year old stuff. So I think he's probably dumping in some really high end barrels that he thinks are going to enhance the flavor profile. But as
Yeah.
you get, like I said, with weeded bourbon, you get up to that 6, 7 year range. For me, it just takes on some really elegant, silky properties, and I think you're starting to get some of that now. And when you taste the Rebel 10, you'll really kind of understand what weeded bourbon, in my opinion, where it really sings is at that 10 year.
I think that description of the mouthfeel, the silkiness,
Yeah,
that's really comes through on this.
yeah.
That's nice. So if you had to say the flagship, what is the flagship of Rebel? Like, what's the one that you think this is our flagship product?
The Rebel 100 because
Okay.
of just because of the volume of how much we sell of it. We move quite a bit of it, and
Hmm.
that's the one that people remember who know the brand. And that's the one that's a great introduction to people who are not familiar with the brand of a young 100 proof flavorful weeded bourbon. So I'd say that we always say the Rebel 100 is going to be our flagship because it's just the one we make the most of, and it's the most recognized regionally and also nationally. We have a lot of distribution. So Rebel
Hmm.
100 by far. And we're starting to integrate more of these SKUs into the brand portfolio. But in this, you guys go to the store, you see it's a crowded landscape. So trying to kind of box out some of our competitors, even though our product may be just as good, if not better, at a better price point, playing the game is really difficult. It's hard to get people to move off of their tastes, and it's also hard to kind of break through the noise. But we're doing it slowly but surely, and the brand has definitely seen some good growth over the past few years. With our Rebel Racing partnership with Kyle Busch, which I'm sure some of you have seen. We have a NASCAR sponsorship, which is cool. This year it's the root beer car, so it looks like a root beer barrel with
Hmm.
soda coming out of it. It's pretty cool. You guys will try the root beer at the end as to have some dessert. Um, but yeah, so it's that 100 is going to be our flagship, and that's the one that, if we're doing a Rebel tasting, we pour that all the time. But we figured for you guys, the rye is kind of more interesting. You guys are more experienced, so many of you probably didn't have the 100 rye because it's not as ubiquitous of a product. But if you go into, most grocery stores or most liquor stores, they got a bottle or a liter of Rebel 100, or they got an old bottle of Rebel Yell sometimes too. Pick that up. It's a relic. So pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
All right. All right. So our fourth pour of the night is going to be our Rebel Kentucky Straight Bourbon, aged 10-year, 100 proof.
Here we are. So I've got a special one too. I wanted to show you guys. This is what it used to look like here. So
Hmm.
similar. Um, so this is going to be the Heaven Hill product because anything older than about 7, 8 years is going to be Heaven Hill juice that we've been aging at the distillery. So this is going to be a 10-year Heaven Hill product, minimum 10-year-old barrel. I want to show you guys the old bottle. It's pretty cool. It's kind of got the that there with the seal and everything.
And in
I kind of
contrast,
I want to open it, but I don't want to open it. It's the old Heaven Hill juice is really good.
so this
So
is still Heaven Hill juice or your juice?
this is still Heaven Hill juice because
Okay.
we haven't been open long enough to have
Hmm.
juice that old. So we have a lot of Heaven Hill barrels that are set apart and aging for this product. And we release it each year. We only release about 1,100 to 1,500 cases, so it's a very small release. And part of that is because our stocks are dwindling from the old Heaven Hill because we're trying to cycle through the Heaven Hill product to then have our product. And John wanted to make sure that he kept the profile of the Heaven Hill juice to our juice. And one of the things that was interesting is I was asking one of our barrel team who does a lot of barrel picks at the distillery, like, hey, out of the new barrels that are coming out, like from some of the Rebel products, like let's say the 6 year product that you guys just had, some of the single barrels are going to be our juice, and some of the single barrels are going to be some of the older Heaven Hill stuff, like the 6 year that you
Mm.
guys just had. And I was asking her, like, what percentage of people are picking, the stuff that's our juice versus the stuff that's the Heaven Hill that you guys are cycling out? And she says 75% of people are picking our juice, which is
Okay.
really, really interesting. So that shows that John's like doing almost too good of a job of making our profile one that's preferable to some of the older Heaven Hill barrels that we've been pulling. Um, so this one again, that 10-year, that premium single barrel. Now for me, I love single barrels because every bottle, every barrel is different, and um, that that uniqueness to me is what sets these apart. And at 10 years, you're looking at 100. I think yours is 101 proof or 100 proof. I can't see because I have an old one. I think it's 100 proof.
It's
100 proof.
100. Yep.
100 proof. Is 100 proof. I think this to me is the quintessential Rebel experience with 10 years where you really taste what the age in a barrel will do with a wheated bourbon at 10 years. I think
And
this
this
is
is and
it's
this is still the same mash bill, even though it was made at Heaven Hill.
yeah, so we use the same 20% wheat. Yeah,
Okay.
always. So the 20% wheated mash bill, and for me, this is where it starts to like get into like, oh, this is starting to taste like a fine cognac or something. It really starts to get super integrated, dark cherry fruits, dried figs,
That's
depth of flavor, almost like a cherry finish. That's why I always drink this. I'm like, it tastes like it's finished. It's got so much going for it. The cherry in there, the kind of bright fruit, but also with like a stewed fruit going on, and then there's milk
hmm.
chocolate running under it the whole time.
So
Um,
I poured them side by side, and that's exactly what I picked up. This is very bright cherry forward, almost like a chocolate cherry cordial or something.
Yeah. So you taste the 6 and taste the 10,
Hmm.
you'll get an idea of what the 4 year span, like obviously that's a minimum 6 year blend. This is a minimum 10 year. So some of
Hmm.
these barrels might be older than 10 years that he's picking. But we don't want to do Rebel Yell 11 year, right? So he just calls it 10 year because if you go over, it's okay. So it's a minimum 10-year-old. Some of them are closer to 11 from what I understand. And and I just think that when you taste the six is great, right? It's a different drinking experience. But that 4 extra years in the barrel gives you something incredibly unique. So last year when we were at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, everyone's chasing the Penelopes, everyone's looking for, the Yellowstone limited edition. And then all the people that like really like they moved past the Penelope and like I want the Rebel 10 because it's not the easiest to find because there's not a lot of it. It's about an 80 to, you'll see it from like 80 to $100 on the shelf. It used to be more, but we've dropped the price. And again, there's not a lot of it. Most places only get a few cases just because we only have, over 1,000 nationally. But that's the one that a lot of people chase. And like, this is my favorite bottle of wheated bourbon. A lot of people say that. Like, it's a sleeper. It's not very well known, but it's just got a lot of character. And again, that really silky mouthfeel to your point. Who just was in the chat. It's got a really nice, thick, kind of chewy mouthfeel.
Hmm.
And it just lingers on the palate, but not in a way where you're like, oh, that's kind of sticking on and burning or whatever. It's just delicious and we're really, really nicely done. So I love this. This is probably my favorite product from Rebel. I'd say the small batch reserve is second for me, and this would be first. It's great every year. John does an excellent job of selecting the barrels. It's a great presentation. It comes in a box, it's
Yes.
fancy looking and a great color on it too. There's nothing to like look at and go, it's just really well done. And at the price point of what it is, for minimum 10-year single barrel at 100 proof, it gives you kind of what you need. So
Well,
love this.
I think that's a
Ian,
great point is
Yeah.
it's rolling in at high proof at $80. And so you're
Yeah.
getting a 10-year age statement at $8 a year is a ridiculous price.
Yeah. What's up, Todd?
Ian, this was Heaven Hill juice. What do they put this out, or was this something they would blend it in with something else? Do they have something 20, this mash bill that they put out under their label?
The 20% weeded?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know the answer to that question, and I don't know if they would tell us the answer to that question necessarily. My mind goes to Bernheim,
Yeah,
but
that's what I was thinking.
but I don't know if it's bespoke, like it was contract distilled or it was excess barrel purchasing. I don't know how Luxco set it up. I think initially maybe they did contract distilling with them, and then maybe was starting to buy excess where they could with the same mash bill. Um, but I don't know. I off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you if it's that Bernheim
So,
or
so
not. But
your juice now that you've produced is about 8 year, you said? 7, 8
yeah, at the
years?
oldest, so 2018 is when we started. Yeah.
So 5 years from now we'll have Rebel 12?
You'll have you may have Rebel 12 that's some old Heaven Hill too, or some Ezra Brooks 12 that's old Heaven Hill as well, because some of the older Ezra stuff is also Ride Heaven Hill. So we're looking at potentially releasing some ancient Ezra or extra old Ezra or something like that at the 12-year mark. They used to have I don't know if you guys remember, there was an Ezra Brooks that had a blue wax. It was a 12-year.
Mm-mm.
So we're trying to kind of maybe do something with that. But yeah, you could see an older Rebel Yell 12 or Rebel 12. They used to have older age statements. I don't know if you remember, but there was like a Rebel Yell 12 year that was floating around. I see it on auction sites, but they're going for like $1,000. So, maybe Todd can buy it. I'm not rich like Todd. I can't.
Corey probably has it at his house.
Yeah, Corey traded, 40 bottles of something for it. Um,
Excellent.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that question, Todd, and I don't know. It's pretty complex how they, how these families are horse trading. So my instinct goes to Bernheim, but I don't know if Bernheim's mash bill is
Yeah.
that.
Or just said we have to go to the distillery to get that Ezra Book 12 year this year. No
Maybe if they
California
have it
release.
out. Yeah, if they have it out.
So
Well, we
going
know
back to
something.
the 6 year, you said there are single barrel versions of that. What kind of
Yeah.
like high proof points have you seen out of that, or is it all coming down to
It's
100?
bottled and bond. It's a bottled and
Okay.
bond product. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would actually really like to see, maybe next year. I mean, obviously I don't have a say in this, but I think it'd be really cool to do we used to have a foolproof Rebel barrel program. I don't know if you remember those old bottles with the maroon labels. Those were good. I don't know if you guys bought any of those, but we had the Distiller's Choice and the foolproof, which was at 120 proof, and I like those. But the it would be cool if they did, single barrels at barrel proof,
Mhm.
where, every barrel was a unique proof. But I think that that's complicated and difficult to do at the scale that we're doing barrels because I think you have to submit each one individually because it's a different proof, something like that, I believe. But I think for now, the Rebel 600 proof bottled in bond is the plan. I haven't heard any different for next year. Maybe they switch it up. I mean, we move our barrel program around a lot. There's different products each year. I think that's part of what makes an effective barrel program is to not have the same thing coming out every year, just dumping on the market so that people are like, yeah, I saw that already. You don't want to switch it up so that it's, unrecognizable. But I think having new products with kind of new features, new wrinkles to them is good. So maybe we do something that's higher proof next year. I'm not sure.
Hmm. That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Because the proof dimension of this adds a whole other layer to wheated bourbon too, right? So you had the 110, that the small batch, which adds a different dimension. So think if you had the age plus the proof, you'd be getting a much different experience. Even then, as great as the Rebel 10 is, what if the Rebel 10 was 120 proof? Would it be the same product? Would you like it more or less? I don't know. I mean, I think there's a reason why they choose 100. I think that John likes it at 100. I think it really it's a full-bodied expression at 100, but there's a market out there for people that would love 124 proof 10-year. Yeah, you mentioned it. I know. I mean, I'd like to try it too, but I'm not one of these people that's like it has to be this proof or I don't like it. I mean, I've had stuff at 95 that I think is fantastic. I've had stuff at 140 that I think drinks really nicely. So it just really depends on your palate and what you like.
So Todd and I have done barrel picks all over the place, and when we went to Lux Row, we um we were able to do barrel picks there, and it was always at the proof you're going to get it. It's basically what's going to happen. We did one somewhere else where we took it straight out of the barrel, and it was amazing juice. But like, no, we're going to water this thing down to 101 proof. We're like, no, this is 130 proof. It's gorgeous. Leave it alone. So. Yeah, so I appreciate not knowing. Um,
Yeah,
it's probably going to be great, but
yeah,
sign me up for that when you guys let it go.
I will.
So, all right, so our fifth pour of the night is going to be our Blood Oath Pact 12 Kentucky Straight Bourbon.
Man, we are right on time. It's 6:50. Jay, we're killing it, dude.
Hey,
This-
I so so
See,
traditionally we're dealing with an East Coast guy who wants to go to bed, right? It's
no,
almost 10 o'clock for him.
yeah, he's like, fuck this.
But you're on California time. We
No,
should
man, I
we can
got a
go
lot
for
of
hours
energy.
with you,
I'm
man.
ready to go. So
Yes.
Blood Oath.
you're not drinking, so you're staying on script.
Yeah,
So
it's true. Yeah, if I was drinking, I'd be all over the place. I'd be, insulting you guys. Um, so Blood Oath. So this is a really cool product. I mean, I'm sure some of you may have had it, may haven't, but it's been out for 12 years, which is why this is Pact 12. John Rempe wanted to create a really interesting line of finished bourbons where he was sourcing extra age stock from all over Kentucky. He doesn't tell you where. He has a lot of relationships at multiple distilleries. Some of it might be from us. Some of it could be from Turkey. Some of it could be from Beam. We don't know. He doesn't tell you. It's a blood oath, right? He swears that he'll never tell anyone where those barrels are coming from. And he's going to do some sort of really cool, unique finish with it as well. He calls it Blood Oath because of that reason, but he also proofs it down to 98.6, which is the temperature of blood. And every year he's got a different release. So the thing that's also really cool about this one is that he's always finishing only the youngest of the blend. So it's usually like two higher age, like a 9 and a 12, or a 9 and a 14, or a 9 and a 15, or a 10 and a 13, and then like a 7 or an 8, and the younger one is what he's finishing. So I think one of the things that makes John a really amazing master distiller and master blender is that he's a food scientist by nature. He actually came from the MGP side, and his ability to integrate flavor, his ability to understand how finishes affect whiskey, and how to create like a very rounded, delicious, flavorful, unique drinking experience is pretty awesome. And I think Blood Oath is sort of shows you the depth of his knowledge and ability as a distiller and as a blender. And so he's been doing this for the past 12 years. This year's is going to be a blend of, I believe, 9 and 12-year-old bourbons with a 7-year-old, which is the finish. And the 7-year-old is going to be a double cask of Montepulciano wine and Sangiovese wine, so Italian reds. Um, Last year's was a tequila finish, which we used our barrels from down in Jalisco with our master distiller Grace from El Mayor. So tequila finish, I love that one. Tequila finishes, I think, are controversial in the bourbon community. They're hit and miss, in all honesty. But I really liked last year's. I like tequila finishes. I tend to. Um, and the year before that was my favorite one ever, and that was Cabernet Franc Merlot blend. So I like when he goes into the European wine, red wine category. I mean, I think those ones are just fantastic, and I think this year's is right on par with that from 2 years ago. So he's looking for incredible drinkability, incredibly depth rich, delicious, fruity, nutmeggy, spicy flavors. And it's a drinking experience where you open the bottle, and very rarely, if you're with a group of friends, does the bottle make it out alive. It's that type of drinking experience. It's not one that you kind of go, oh my God, that's too much, or it's going to destroy my palate. It's just you can drink it all night, and it's delicious, and it's incredibly well integrated. And when he releases this each year, we've got a line all the way down from our distillery down to the street of people waiting to get these bottles. So a very limited release. There's only 51,000 bottles for the entire country. I don't know what that breaks down to in cases, but it's not a lot. Um, and this is his baby. This is something he does every year, and every year it's met with great excitement in the marketplace, not only from our customers but from retailers. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been with Corey and we're pushing Penelope, or we're pushing Yellowstone or El Mayor, and people are asking, "Hey, how do I get Blood Oath? How do I get Blood Oath? How do I get Blood Oath?" And he goes, "Well, buy some Rebel or Ezra. That's how you get Blood Oath." But that's the one that's one that people are constantly asking for is the Blood Oath, and it is limited allocation. And these are sitting mid 100s usually. You can find them secondary for higher, but that's kind of where they sit on the shelf. Mid 100s, high 100s, and they're awesome. I mean, uh, my associate Corey on the call has a whole collection in his house of every single pack, so it's pretty cool to see. He's got the whole thing. I only have I think I have 9 on. That's about it, but that's pretty good. But I love this product. I love what he does with them each year. I love the ingenuity. I love the creativity. And I think John just does an awesome job with this product. And it's one that's just well respected. When people see it, they want to drink it.
What's fun about Blood Oath is truly you don't know what you're getting until you crack it open because it's so different every year. But I don't remember exactly. I think it was number 6 was one of the ones I really enjoyed. When I cracked this one open to pour the samples, I was like, "Oh, this is good." The nose was unbelievable, and I might have taken a sip at that time as well. But
Do you just
but
incriminate yourself? You're not supposed to do that.
well, Todd wasn't watching, so I can get away with things. But no, this is actually, I think, one of my favorite Blood Oaths released recently. So that's
Yeah.
like
The
since
other thing,
6.
the other thing to note about this one, and I just want to just level set so you guys are sure, is that these are ride bourbons, right? So
Hmm.
these are not weeders anymore. So you're out of the weeder universe. As far as he's explained, he claims that they're ride. Now, I don't know if he puts a weeded mash bill in there and doesn't say anything because he's not supposed to, but from what I understand, if you look on the label, it said like 2 highly aged ride bourbons. So um, my assumption is that, that's how he's keeping that consistent each year. Finishing rye bourbon tends to be more popular than finishing wheated bourbon. Um, in general, I think it's because wheat kind of fights with the finish sometimes. So rye bourbon is a little bit easier to work with. So at least that's my understanding. But it's just a great product, and I think that it's really cool to kind of you had all these wheaters, and now maybe try the 6 or the 10 year with this this ultra aged blend and see the differences of a finished whiskey versus your Rebel 10, which is unfinished, or your Rebel 6, or one of the kind of higher end ones, and kind of get a sense of the differentiator between a rye finished bourbon that's expertly blended with some ultra aged stuff in there versus some decent age statement stuff that's weeded purely. It's a much different experience. Um, I noticed, I think it was who said, I think it was Karen's like, I like this one the best. I'm like, yeah, you have expensive taste, Karen. Of course you like that one the best. It's a nice bourbon. Not many people are going, I like the Rye 100 the best. It's like, yeah, you liked it, but now you've had, you've had
Hey,
the,
Karen.
the granddaddy. So, um, it's yeah, I get it. I get it. I'd say for me, like again, I don't really consider the Rebel part of the Blood Oath. It's almost like a side brand of John's and Lux Row. We also have Lux Row specific products that are like bespoke, like Lux Row Distillers, and you guys have seen that, Todd and Jay. When you go to the distillery, we have a 12-year double single barrel that's fantastic. We've got some finished products. We have another product coming out that John did where we grew the corn on distillery grounds. That's a 5 or 6 year that'll be there. So when you go to the distillery, you can pick up a bottle of that or try it. So we do Lux Row Distillers products as well. It's just kind of a smaller brand that we sell mostly at the distillery, has some national distribution, but not a lot. And then this Blood Oath is like its own line of brand, like specialty item that comes out once a year. But it's other than the Rebel 10, it's usually my favorite like Lux Row product that is nationally distributed for sure. I get it, Karen. It's
You
delicious.
guys have that Lux Row double single barrel that's out available out here.
Yeah, yeah, it's the
Right.
4 grain. Yeah, that one's good
Yeah.
too. That one's like 4 or 5 years old, but I think it's really good. I think it tastes great, and it's like a 40 or $50 bottle. It's not too expensive.
Hmm.
Yeah. So John loves doing like wine cask finish stuff. So we have a Albarino finished Lux Row whiskey that doesn't have national distribution, but if you go to the distillery, he may have some bottles of that left, which is really
Yeah,
nice.
they
Um,
had four different ones last year when
yeah,
we
they
were
have
there.
a sherry finish here. I
Four
have
different
here.
finishes.
Here, I'll show you guys. Hold on. Hang on a sec. I'm not wearing any pants, so I can't show it.
At least he's honest about it. How many of you guys have been to Lux Row in Kentucky?
So this
Plenty.
this is kind of what our own products look like. This is our own juice and this is a PX sherry finish, which is really nice actually. I haven't drank much of it, but when I tried it, I enjoyed it. This one's at 112 proof with a really high quality sherry finish. But you can see they're really nice looking bottles too. They do a good job with them. So the Albarino is similar, but it has kind of a white label on the front.
While on the topic, this 12-year double oaked,
Oh yeah,
Todd
that
introduced
one's
this to me. Distillery only my favorite double oaked of all time. 12-year cask strength. Oh,
yeah. So
gorgeous.
so Todd, to your point, that's old Heaven Hill stuff that we blended that's distillery only. So those are really, really small batch products. So we're taking a couple barrels and making that product. That's not cheap, but it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a few of them last year and the
Yeah.
year before
Yeah.
and the year
The
before.
guys brought me a 12-year back from one of the trips, and I I'm very guarded at who I let drink that.
Yeah. Good. That's a good
You haven't
sign.
given it to me, Bob.
As I said, I'm very guarded.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, no respect.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, Lux Row, it's in Bardstown. It's a beautiful distillery. When you go to a lot of these distilleries, they look like either really, really old or really, really modern. You guys are kind of right in the middle. You have some old stuff, you have some new stuff, and it's a gorgeous property. I love the fact that you have cornhole out there in the front yard. I kicked Todd's ass at cornhole. He's still salty about it. I'm undefeated in Kentucky. He is not. Um, but yeah, it's a great spot. You guys should go in there. And when you walk into their tasting room, they have someone pouring cocktails. It's a wonderful spot.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna have.
it
I
really
thought you
No,
would say they had a picture of Jeff Martin up.
no, we're not gonna bring it up that story. No.
it is a wonderful experience. It's beautiful grounds. If you do barrel picks, you do them in this old 19th century stone house from pre-Civil War. So there's some old stuff on the property. You got old barns, and then we have this really modern facility it's a great tour. The Rick House is really cool. We have that famous like kind of Lux Row wall that you can see up the entirety up all the way to the top of the corrugated metal rick house. So it's just a great experience. The team that's there is awesome. Landon, who runs the distillery team both at Limestone Branch and at Lux Row, does a great job with training up the advocates and ambassadors who are teaching you about the distillery. And in our barrel pick program, if you're fortunate enough to go, I think is one of the best in Kentucky. I think we do a great job, and the hospitality's there, and it's just a high-end facility. And to Jay's point, their cocktails are killer. You can also try all of our brands there. So
Hmm.
we sell all of our Rebel, all of our Ezra. We sell our Remus stuff there. We sell single barrels that are exclusive to the distillery, some of which I've personally have picked barrels that then are sold, which is really cool. I picked a Penelope single barrel about a year and a half ago that was only sold at the distillery, so that was cool. So it's like staff picks, and is that one of them?
No, that's
I don't, that's our estate
oh
pick.
yeah,
I don't
Oh,
know.
that's your estate. Yeah. Ours would say like it'll have a sticker on it, like Lux Row, Lux Row pick. But yeah, you can buy Penelope. You can try anything from any of our brands if you've ever been curious. So that's really cool too. It's not just Lux Row products. And I think that's awesome because it lets people understand that we're all part of one family under one roof and the MGP family. And we have a ton of great products and exposing those to people as they walk in the door. Most people don't associate, they're like walking, they're like, why do you have Penelope here? It's like, oh, that's part of the same company. And like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
It's kind of making that connection. And then people understand MGP not only has the major facility in southern Indiana, but we have this other major facility in Bardstown and then a smaller satellite facility down in Lebanon where we do our limestone branch, Yellowstone stuff. So it's a great family of brands. It's an awesome experience. I would encourage all of you to go.
All right. So our last pour of the night, our root beer whiskey here. This is our root beer whiskey, Rebel
Yeah,
root beer whiskey. That's it.
that's it. That's
So,
it. There's nothing else to it. Not going to be a
so
super long expression for
what's
me. Yeah.
fun about this is I have cracked this open and I've held it in front of people. I go, "What do you smell?" And they're like, "That's root beer float, root beer float." And like everyone right off the top, that's everything. Like it nails the name. So 70 proof. Let's give this a try. Dessert.
Yeah. So this is going to be A&W heaven. There you go. Yeah, so this is going to be our, think about it like our Rebel 100 proof down to 70 with root beer flavor added. And they did an incredible job of nailing root beer flavor. So it tastes like it doesn't taste like artificial root beer. It actually tastes like they're utilizing some amount of botanicals or something to kind of get that flavor profile because to me it tastes like the candy barrels, like
Hmm.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
obviously it's whiskey. It's got a whiskey component or it's a liqueur or whatever you want to call it. It's 70 proof but it's delicious. It's amazing. It's great chilled like, to shoot it. Like we have a whole thing that our brand manager and the brand came up with Philip Lux, who's Don Lux's son. He's the Rebel brand manager called Shoot the Root, where we're putting all these shot machines into bars so people can go in and take root beer shots. It's a great to shoot. It's great. You can sip it neat. It's great in a cocktail. It's great in an ice cream float or like an adult cocktail, type of thing. What I've actually experimented with and which really, really good is we have another product called our Rebel Butter Pecan Cream.
Hmm.
And what you do is you do kind of like a large, a tall shot of the Rebel root beer, and then you float in the pecan cream, and you do that, and then it's just this creamy, delicious, nutty root beer mix. It's fantastic. So it's an awesome product. It's fun. It's dessert for you guys, right? Talk about a palate cleanser. Don't go back and then taste the Rebel 10 and tell me it tastes like root beer because it's going to destroy your palate, but it's fine. Um, and I love it. It's great when we do our whiskey riots or we do our large scale, whiskey festivals and we pour this. I mean, I got Rebel 10 on the table or Kyle Busch single barrel, and people go, "I want the root beer." So people love it. It's interesting to see like the whiskey snobbery doesn't exist when you're just like the little kid in you comes out and you're like, I just want the candy one. Can I try the candy one? I've always been someone who's like, I don't like flavored whiskey. And then I tried this and I was like, I guess I do like flavored whiskey because this is pretty awesome. And it brings me back to, stealing candies from the store around the corner, kind of when I was a little kid, me and my
Yeah.
degenerate friends doing that. So it's awesome. It's a cool product. We had it out a couple, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and it did okay, and they discontinued it. We also had some other, like, we had a ginger flavored. I think we might have had a spicy Rebel too, or something like that, like a Fireball type of cinnamon one, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. Then they just brought it back this year, thinking, well, with the success of ready to drinks and flavored whiskey being so big, this is a product that did well for us that we just felt wasn't fitting in our brand planning. Why don't we bring it back? They brought it back, and people have responded very well to it. It's 15 bucks on the shelf too. I mean, you can't beat it. It's just having something fun, a dessert, or keep it with your creams or whatever, and have fun with it. It's a pretty awesome experience.
Do you have a recipe for us for
Yeah.
any sort of cocktail?
An adult root beer float. So you're gonna take like Rebel 100,
Okay.
just a little bit, just at the bottom. Put some ice cream on top of that. Vanilla ice cream, I would recommend. Vanilla bean. Then you're gonna pour a little bit of the Rebel butter pecan on top of the ice cream. Then you're gonna pour the Rebel root beer on top of that. Then you're gonna
Awesome.
have enough, you're gonna get enough fun from the Rebel 100 at the base, so it'll give you a nice buzz, and then you're gonna get all the sweetness of the ice cream and the Rebel butter and the butter pecan, and then that root beer flavor will be in there too.
All
You
right.
guys do a nice job with all your brands with your finished stuff. The at the showcase, the Penelope the ready to drinks were all a big hit,
Yeah.
and then also with the Yellowstone. I know like a couple girls in my office love the espresso.
Yeah, that one's the winner, man. That I mean, our old fashioned does okay on that one too. It's a little lighter and less sweet than the Penelope ones. That people some people appreciate that more, and it's lower proof, much lower proof. But yeah, the espresso is the winner for Yellowstone for sure. People love that one. And so one of the things we were doing at KBF is we were actually pouring that Rebel butter pecan cream on top of the espresso because we were right next to each other. We had the Lux Row, and I was pouring Yellowstone. So we were mixing that and giving it to people, and it became like the drink of the festival. So everyone's like, I want that thing that people are walking around with. So we ended up running out of Rebel Butter Pecan, and people got real mad. And I was asking Landon, who runs our distillery, I'm like, do we have any more of that? He's like, we don't have any more. I'm like, that's going to be a problem. So,
Jason's
but yeah,
showing off his espresso over here. Really?
yeah, there it is. Look at you. Yeah, it's a great pour. It's a great pour, just chilled. It's a great pour mixed with stuff too. Makes obviously it's its own kind of bourbon, martini, but you can mix it with stuff too to make other things that are delicious, an affogato or something.
Well, and let's not go out too far off brand, but Corey let me try the tequila espresso one,
Oh, the
the El
cafe. Yeah.
Mayor.
Yeah, that's a delicious pour too. So that one,
Man,
yeah, so that one there's no flavor added. It's all from the barrel influence. So they're seasoning the barrels with Brazilian dark roast espresso beans, and she's like rotating it in the barrel like every couple weeks. Then she dumps the barrel and then puts the tequila in, and then it's a reposado. So it looks like a reposado in the glass. It looks like our standard reposado, and then you taste it and it's reposado. Oh my God, there's a coffee creaminess at the end of this. How did it get it? So most coffee or cafe tequila stuff is going to be that kind of syrupy sweet liqueur. So this is a really unique
not
product.
that.
It's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to your point, Todd, like I think we do a really good job with our finished products and our ready to
You do.
pours. It's just about getting more people to know about them, and that's part of the reason why we do these events is to just give people the visibility to know that we have all these amazing products available, and they're at a great price point, and they're really high quality products.
Yeah, that was excellent. So, how many of you guys saw the Lux Row lineup at our last showcase? Because I'll tell you what, they killed it. You had three booths right there, the first three booths, and you guys were murdering it. Like everybody was lined up. You guys were like at least eight people deep all the time. It was insane. So this year
Yeah,
you guys have the showcase table
yeah, and then
and
we also have we have the Penelope Clubhouse coming as well.
yes, yes. So I haven't told anybody about that yet, but
Oh,
yeah, that's
sorry.
gonna no, it's fun to kind of spill some juice for the
Okay.
people that are here. So
Jay, it wasn't
um
in the run. It wasn't in the run of show, man. Not you
no,
guys.
it was not.
I'm
And you stuck the
sorry.
script pretty well. So
Dude,
water
it's
benefits.
7:10 and we're going to start Q&A. I mean, we nailed it. We're like
Well,
Japanese train operators here.
no, Todd carries a heavy whip. Like he keeps
I,
me
yeah, it
on
looks
time.
like it. Yeah, he looks very intense right now.
Yeah, I'm a little more calm now.
Yeah.
All right, so let's open up the
I'll
chat.
explain later.
Let's open the chat and questions moving forward.
I got one question in the chat from Eric, as a heads up for everybody, because we always tend to forget this. We're going to do a group picture for our socials. So if everybody wants to participate, put your cameras on. That would be much appreciated. But of course, that's optional. So we'll do a little group picture in a couple
Okay.
minutes here. Eric
There we go.
asks, what makes some weeders more sweet than others?
That's a really interesting and difficult question to answer. I guess the kind of, the simple answer would be maybe corn content, right? So less wheat, more corn. Corn tends to be the sweetest of all the grains that are going to be integrated into a bourbon or a whiskey. And the other aspect is, sometimes the yeast they're using might release more, sugar, or they might be distilling at a different, a different proof point, going into a different type of barrel. Maybe the chars are different, and you're getting more wood sugar integrated into the barrel as it ages. So there's a million different factors that are going to cause a whiskey to be sweeter than
Rig
another.
house,
Brick housing,
rig
right?
house
Yeah,
location.
yeah, all that stuff. The heat. Um, so it's really there's a million different things but really once it goes into that barrel, I mean, that's where the rubber hits the road, right? Your yeast and your grains are going to give you, a certain maybe 20% of what's going on, but 80% of what's going on is coming from that barrel and where it's placed and how it's placed. So different chars, different barrel qualities, different grain tightness, different locations, different, and not only in the rick house, but also in the state, right? So there's different Kentucky's got all these hollers, so in one area it might get super, super hot, and in another area it stays cooler even when it gets warmer. So you get different places that are aging. Western part of the state's gonna age differently than the eastern part of the state or central part of the state. So a million different factors, but I think the main would be corn versus other grains, and then just aging in barrels.
Makes sense. So I put a question in the chat. If you guys could please add your favorite pours of the night, just kind of get a little group poll. For everybody else that wants to participate, so if you guys want to put something in your glass, we'll do a kind of group picture. I'll do a little group countdown. Just give me a second to get ready here.
Bob, please put some rye in your glass.
Don't boss. He can't. You're not the boss of him.
I made him dinner last night.
Oh, okay.
I actually mixed the root beer with the blood oath. It's pretty good.
God bless you.
That sounds like a poor decision.
No, it's pretty good actually.
Oh, okay.
This is the Willy Wonka of whiskey blending.
That's why he's a silent partner.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, let me get my glass up. My water glass here.
All right.
Karen
Looks
lost
like we
Scott.
need to send Ian a West Coast whiskey blend.
Yeah, I know. You guys are being stingy.
I'm pretty
I
sure
got
I
you,
gave
bro.
him one last time he was down
I'm
here.
pretty sure I forgot it for obvious reasons, Jay.
All right, we'll give Jason 1 second. All right, stand by, guys. Stand by.
All right, so I have another drink.
Quick question while we get reset. Ian, I know a bunch of bibs on your side. They're marathons or runs?
Yeah, all different types of
Yeah,
runs I've
it
done.
was
Yeah.
late.
Yeah. So I've
It was
done, marathons, half marathons,
bar crawls,
5Ks, trail
Drinking
runs.
marathons.
Yeah, it's been a while because
pub crawls.
yeah.
Awesome. Very impressive.
Thanks. I mean, if
All
you
right, well,
see me in person, you wouldn't believe it, but yeah, I've done them.
You look good, buddy.
very cool.
Thanks. Appreciate
All
it.
right, let's do a group countdown, a picture countdown on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Okay, so
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
How bad are the Utes going to beat the Buffaloes this year?
Oh, wow.
God, how dare you? How dare you ruin this lovely night
Cheers.
with all these great people? I mean, it's
Well, we probably should have done that off record, but
yeah, no. So this is a fun story to tell.
should I
So
cut the recording?
What was it? You ended the recording?
No,
I
no, it's
will.
PG. It's
You
PG.
keep
It's
it
good.
going. I
Okay.
could let people know
All
how much
right. All right.
that I'm a
You're a man of your word.
DGen fan of the Colorado Buffaloes, which is not easy to be. I went to University of Colorado. I've rooted for them as for through lean. Yeah, they were good when I was in college, 20 plus years ago, but they're terrible and they're still terrible. But I
Was that
last
Cordell
year,
Stewart?
no, no, I'm not that old. Come on, Jay. Jeez. I was a young boy during Cordell. No, I was there when they had Gary Barnett and they won the Big 12 and they played Oregon and got smashed by Joey Harrington. I don't. We're talking college football. If anyone's eyes glaze over, sorry, but Todd and I are huge college football fans. But anyway, as is Jay.
That's why
No,
Brian is yawning.
it's fine. But anyway, so I've been following them forever, and then Dion became the head coach, and there was a new dawn, and I thought, okay, they're going to be good, and then they had a decent first year. They had four wins versus one, and then last year, the year after, I thought, okay, now's the time, and we're going to be good, and this is going to be good. And then I told Todd, who's a former Utah Ute football player, I said, hey, we're going to kill you guys. Like you're done. He's like, you want to bet? I was like, I'll bet anything. And he's like, okay. And the Buffaloes got, creamed. So I had to send Jay and West Coast some consolation prizes. Let's just say that. And I think it was I put a nice picture of Coach Prime on the front on the inside the box when he opened it to kind of know that it was from him and his lack of ability
I
to
think
coach the team.
We
I
shared
think
it with
Oscar
West Coast
was
Whiskey.
in there, enjoyed that. Yeah, Oscar, you
Yeah,
were in that tasting, I believe. But yeah, it was fun. Thank you, Ian. You
yeah,
were a man of your word.
of
You sent us
course.
some fantastic
Yeah,
bottles, a
yeah.
couple of Penelope Estates, and yeah, everything was fantastic and
Oh, good. Yeah,
much more than I expected. And I didn't really want to share with Jay, but I guess I did. So
yeah, it was
to see.
a horribly embarrassing ordeal when I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to send him a bunch of stuff for this because it's like if it was a close game, I would have sent you one bottle. But the fact that it was so bad, I was like, I want him to know how bad I feel about this. It was because
The
I was
whole
so
lineup.
sure. I'm like, Utah can't. They're ready to beat them. Like they're gonna beat them. And then I was like, oh God, no, it was really bad. So anyway, so yeah, Todd and I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to be, I don't even know what type of team we're going to have this year, so I'm not going to be talking any smack about the Buffaloes. I'm just going to watch and hope that they're semi-decent.
All right. So traditionally at this time, we cut the recording, and I'm going to do that. And we say thank you to the rep, and we move on and let you go to bed. But you're not East Coast, so you're going to stay up and keep talking and drinking and having fun with us. So
And
West Coast
drinking
Whiskey,
water.
thank you so much for joining us tonight. And you got to be on here to see the after hours.